What's going on YouTube? It's Tom here, and today we're going to be doing another steel testing. Today we're going to be testing two steels that actually should be pretty darn close. This one's going to be pretty interesting. So we're doing VG-10 versus CPM154. And for those of you who don't know, CPM154 is the exact same composition of 154 CM, except for it goes through Crucible Industries particle metallurgy process. So the actual attributes of the steel should be slightly better. Probably not noticeable in real life use, but there is a difference. So for the knives today, we have a Hogue micro flip in CPM154. Great knife, great makers. And for VG-10, we have a Spyderco Delica in VG-10. So let's talk about these steels real quick. VG-10 is a Japanese steel typically used in Japanese knives. That Delica is produced in Japan. It is a stainless steel as well as CPM154, so both are well over that 12% chromium mark to get them over stainless. As far as composition goes, they're actually very similar. So they have roughly the same amount of everything as each other, but CPM154 varies a little bit. There's some added stuff. It has trace amounts of tungsten, and that's actually not intentional. Crucible says it's actually residual, and it's only 0.4%. It has more molybdenum than VG-10. VG-10 has about 0.9 to 1.2%, and CPM154 has 4%. There's trace amounts of sulfur in CPM154 that isn't there in the VG-10, as well as 0.8% silicon, which can play a little bit of a difference, why I'm thinking we might get a little bit better edge retention out of CPM154. I think it's going to be close though. As far as the specs on these blades go, they're both right around 3 inches. It's 3-inch blade for the Delica, 2 3/4 for the Hogue micro flip. Different locking mechanisms. Obviously, the Hogue is a button lock, whereas the Delica is a back lock. Unlike the last test we had between the Ozark Trail and the Kershaw, the dimensions here are actually quite a bit different. So the Hogue is 118 thousandths at the spine for the stock thickness, and the Delica is 90 thousandths at the spine as far as stock thickness goes. Behind the edge, the Hogue is 11 thousandths behind the edge, partly because of that hollow grind, and the Delica is 19 thousandths, so almost double behind the edge. Even though the stock thickness is so much different, that hollow grind and flat grind really do play a difference there. So you really do have different measurements. I think that might play a little bit into the cutting. I think the Delica might actually hold up a little bit better than I think it will, just because of the little bit of added material behind the edge. The Hogue should probably cut a little bit better. So without any more talking from myself, without making this video too much more boring, let's get to cutting. Alright guys, just like the last test, we're going to be cutting 9.5-inch cardboard. Well, it kind of varies, 9.5, 11, whatever. It's all the same thickness though. They're all double wall cardboard sheets. Both knives have been sharpened on my wicked edge to 18 degrees and then have a 20-degree micro bevel put on them with my Spyderco Sharp Maker. We'll be testing these knives until they can no longer reliably cut computer paper. Both knives are super sharp right now, as you guys can see. So let's go.
Maybe we need some time alone.
That was a lot of cutting, guys. I don't look forward to testing any steels like S90V or S110V if that's what VG-10 and 154 are going to do. So let's talk about the results here. Kind of surprising, actually. This isn't the first time I've been wrong, and it's not going to be the last, that's for sure. So I figured they'd both be kind of close. They'd be kind of a close result, but I thought 154 might edge it out just because of the added elements that it's got. Although they are just trace amounts, they can contribute just a little bit. I think this came down to more of a blade grind type of thing than the actual steel components, because the Spyderco just felt like it cut longer, and it felt like it cut easier that entire time. Even though a hollow grind is nice and thin right behind the edge, because it gets thicker up here towards the blade stock, it's going to get a little bit wedgy when you start to get up that way, because when the material starts to hit right here on the shoulders, it wants to bind up, whereas on a full flat grind, it's a gradual taper the entire way, and it'll actually cut a little bit nicer. Both knives cut really well. Both knives performed kind of how I thought they would. I figured they do pretty good. They're kind of entry-level super steels, knives that were super steels back a couple of years ago, probably 10 years ago or so, and now they're kind of in the lower end of the market. They fall between steels like S30V, S35VN, 20CV, and then your low-level steels like AUS8, 8CR, 13MOV, 14C28N, that kind of thing. So let's get into the results here. So VG-10, you guys may have saw I ran out of the 9-inch cardboard and moved on to 11. That did 155.92 feet, which is darn impressive. That's way more than I thought it would. And even at that point, it was still kind of cutting paper. It just wasn't reliably, which is why I stopped cutting with it. The Hogue cut really well too. Started cutting really easy at the beginning, and then progressively got quite a bit harder as the edge kind of deformed a little bit. CPM154 in the Hogue cut 114.58 feet. That is a 73% increase, which is absolutely insane. I did not think that would be how far the results would be apart. I really thought it'd be quite a bit closer. Like I said, I think it's more of a geometry thing than anything. Even though the blade stack was thicker on the Hogue while behind the edge was thinner, and then vice versa on the Delica, I think because the Hogue was so thin behind the edge that the edge kind of deformed quicker and stopped cutting quite as well. It took more force to cut with this, which ended up deforming the edge quicker. Whereas the Delica, even though it was a little bit thicker behind the edge, meant it had more steel behind the edge, but because of the grind, it cut easier and it cut for longer. The other possibility is maybe the heat treat was a little bit better on the VG-10 than what it was on the CPM154. Maybe it was a point or two higher. I'm not really sure. I don't have a Rockwell tester to be able to tell you guys that. All I know is that the results kind of blew my mind, and I'm not looking forward to going into some of these really high wear resistant steels. It's gonna end up hurting my hand. Both of these knives got kind of uncomfortable towards the end as far as using them. A lot of people really rant and rave about Spyderco's ergos, but tell you what, that sharp jimping that they have, even though it's so fine and stuff, it eventually starts to cut into your fingers and it hurts. Same with the Hogue. They go the opposite approach on the jimping side. It's quite a bit larger and more spaced out. That was super uncomfortable. These are not two knives that I would want to do extended cutting with. But taking that into account, this is about a $70 knife. This is about a $125 knife or so. And compared to, let's say, the Kershaw Atmos that I just tested, the Delica is roughly double the price, which you're still coming in at like $70 or so. And you're getting almost double the cutting performance. So for you guys that are looking for something that's going to cut a little bit longer and not wanting to spend a fortune, VG-10's great stuff. Sharpens up nice, takes a great edge, and holds it for a decent amount of time. It's a great all-around steel for that. Same thing with CPM154. This is not the last test I'm going to do on CPM154. I really think it can do much better than that. So if you guys enjoyed the video and were as surprised at the results as I was, make sure to drop a like down below. comment what steels you'd like me to test next. And if you guys are interested in this kind of content and want to see more of it, hit that subscribe button down below. And as always, thanks for watching, guys, and have a great day.